So 2013, when I actually had the realization that there needs to be more, and that's when I started educating myself on what that looks like and what I need to do. It was just me, and I want to say 3 crews. So I did everything to run the business, purchasing everything, ARs, APs, all that. And then the crews just did the labor. And then fast forward to now, we're going to break $7 million in revenues. We have a team of 7 W-2s on the operation side. We have a salesperson. We have, I want to say about 6 to 8 crews. And I have a COO that runs the company. And that's what not a scaled up version looks like. That's what, halfway there to the scale up version looks like. I mean, we're going for $100 million.
Hey everyone, before we dive into this week's interview, I have to tell you about big news in the Gobundance community for the Gobundance Men's Tribe, as well as the Ascend Tribe. Here's the thing. We've always been at $1 million to join Gobundance. We've always had that net worth requirement. We've also have a champion division that has a requirement to be at $5 million in net worth. Well, right now, we just met as a tribal council and decided that we're going to increase the minimum requirement effective January 1, 2023. That minimum requirement is going to go from 1 million to 2 million to become a member of Gobundance. And if you want to be in that champion division, it's going to go from 5 million to 10 million. Again, effective January 1. In addition, the pricing is increasing as well. Our entry into Gobundance, the elite level at now 2 million, effective January 1, will go from 10,000 annually to 12,500 annually. And our champion division will go from 15,000 annually to 20,000 annually. Again, effective January 1st. That means if you're listening to this episode in December of 2022, then you have an opportunity to apply for membership and get in still at the $1 million mark for elite and 10,000 annually, or the $5 million mark for champion and $15,000 annually. And even though it goes up in January to a new level, 2 million and 10 million, if you're under those, but in elite or champion, you stay in the division that you joined in December of 2022. And on top of that, you lock into what we call tier 1 pricing, which means that if you join for 10,000 by the end of this year, and in 2 years, the tuition goes up to say 15,000 for members that join in January and new members at that point, because you're in at 10,000, you'll go up to 12,500 below the new member rate always. Lots of reasons to consider joining Gobundance before the end of the year. Again, this is for the men's side. The women's side is staying where they are right now, but the men's side is increasing in the minimum requirement to join, as well as the tuition rate on January 1. On January 1, all of that is what's in place. But before December 31 of 2022, you can still get in at 10 or 15,000 and at 1 or 5 million to our elite or champion division and lock into what we call tier 1 pricing. Now, if you are right there, you're at 700 or 600, and you're like, man, a million was where I was hoping to be. Well, there's good news for you too. If you join me in my Ascend community, which is going to soon be renamed Emerge Supercharged, it might be as of the time that you listen to this, as long as you join before the end of 2022, then you will be considered for membership at the $1 million mark. Lots of great reasons to join our Gobundance community at any level at this point before the end of the year. Even the women's division, at some point, all of this stuff is going to get reviewed on that side as they grow and add more value. So make sure you keep an eye out. And if you haven't already, go to Gobundance.com, apply, and we'll make sure that we get an ambassador on a call with you. It's not just an easy in. We got to vet you. We have to talk to you. A lot of work has to be done between now and the end of the year. So don't wait. Submit your application at Gobundance.com so that we can determine whether or not you are ready to join Gobundance, especially if you're looking to get in before the pricing and before the minimum requirement goes up. Now to our interview. Enjoy. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today's guest is a Gobundance OG and one of the most incredible men you're going to meet. So I can't wait to introduce him and talk about his story. He's an investor, an entrepreneur, a father, a husband. He does it all. And we're going to talk a lot about today, not only his business, but the expansion of his business and some of the stuff he's been doing with that. So Kamil Maras, man, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that cool intro, man. That's awesome.
Hey, you're a cool guy. You deserve a cool intro. So there we go.
Thank you.
Let's get a little story. So you've got, I know you have an immigrant story. If you don't mind starting with that, just kind of sharing a little bit about how you went from, I believe it was Poland to New Jersey. How did that happen?
My mom immigrated 3 years before my brother and I came over. So that was 1990. She came over to the States, she set herself up here, and then brought me and my brother over in 93. So that 3-year period right there in Poland, it was just the three of us with my dad. It was certainly a life-defining time period. Three dudes living by themselves and growing up. And my dad was certainly not always home, and that was a period that definitely shaped me. But then again, we come here to the States. I went through traditional schooling, and then after college, got into the family business. So that's pretty much the journey.
Can you go into that for a second? This is interesting because I'm in this spot right now. I got young kids. Yours are older than mine, but my 7 and 4-year-old boys. And I'm worried, I guess you could say is the word, about how I always say, I want them to be able to fall down on grass if it's on grass, but I want to catch them before they fall off a cliff. But I wonder if sometimes I'm catching them before they fall on grass. So let me ask it this way with your dad. As you look back now as a man to that time when you were a kid or a teenager at that point, right? What do you look back on it as far as the good and the bad of that situation for you as you are today? How did it shape you? What are some things that you feel today represent lessons from that time where he wasn't as available and it's just him and it's a bunch of dudes and there's no feminine presence, that loving presence in the household? What today, not like back then, we'll go to that in a second, but what today about you do you look back on and reflect and say, wow, this defined who I am today, good or bad?
Wow. Honestly, I've never even thought about it in that category right now. I certainly go back into that time period in my mind, but that relating to where am I now? I think a risk. I take risks. I'm sort of risk averse, would you say? Right.
Sure.
I think that's because I was, again, I don't want to say I was on my own, but yeah, there were long stretches where I was a 10, 11-year-old kid on my own. So it's sort of fast paced, that little growing up time period, and certainly I was more mature, probably still way too immature, but more mature than kids my age. And now I think, again, it goes back to maybe an extra courage in my business ventures, extra courage around letting my kids take risks. Although I don't know, probably challenge myself on that one. I'm sort of like you. I think I catch them before they even fall on the grass too early. So that would be that, I think. And another one that kind of comes to mind is my dedication and devotion. Like when I set my mind onto something, it's almost always happens.
How do you relate that to that time when you're on your own? Your stick-to-itiveness. How does that relate to then as you
just because I had to sort of get things done. Like there was no mom to help me, right? Dad was working a lot, and he also had his own issues, and there was very little support around me from 10 to 13 years old. So I actually had to, whatever it was, I had to get it done. I'm not saying it was major things. My brother was still there. He's 2 years older, but even little things for a little guy are big things. So I think that thinking about it now, I think that has a lot to do with it too.
Is it so? Okay, now go back to then. What do you remember of that time? Were you resentful, scared? What did it look like for you as a 10, 11-year-old kid back then?
Yeah, not really resentful for some reason. And I'm surprised about at that I'm not even today, not resentful, but certainly scared, man. I mean, there were times where my dad was not home for a few days, few nights, and we either got locked out of the apartment, had to hang out on the park benches and stuff. And it wasn't that rough, but there was neighbors that always kind of looked after us. But it was certainly, it was scary. And like I said, it was something that maybe toughened me up a bit quicker than the usual childhood growing up, and allowed me to certainly like develop that muscle of overcoming adversity. But yeah, come to think of it, I'm still not resentful to that time. I'm actually grateful.
Your brother, I don't want to speak for him, but has he articulated at all any harboring of that resentment or I mean, he's older, so maybe he bore a little bit more of the mother-father dynamic in the household since your mom wasn't there. Does he feel the same or no?
Yeah, I mean, he might feel a little bit more resentment because he was older, and I think he did maybe feel that the burden was on him more so than me, right? So I'm sure there is a little bit of that, but yeah, we both dealt with it pretty good.
Yeah, no, you've both done fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it wasn't that dramatic. It was just different than any other kids growing up at that age.
Yeah.
Around those parts.
I dive into this for that reason. You talked about it. Like, I have these kids that I'm projecting forward, when they're 25, 30 years old, who are they going to be? I'm probably overthinking it as a parent, but who are they going to be? And, like right now, like my older kid, he's, I've just realized this recently. I think his superpower, he's like an X-Men character, right? X-Men, like, how in those movies, the little girl like learns she could, I don't even know, but like freeze things. And so she gets like, oh my God, until she learns to harness that power. It's scary and overwhelming, right? Everything that happens is scary. And I feel like he's got this really, really incredible ability to tune into the emotions of people around him. Like he feels like a sensitivity or an empath type of thing. Which can lead to, and at times for him, like you could see some anxiety in him. Like if I tell him a story about somebody who struggled, like he feels it so deeply. And I'm like, okay, do I wrap around him right now to encourage this gift and make sure that he's aware? Because I have this vision of like, if he's feeling overwhelmed by it, he's going to create bad habits, numbing, eating, drinking, whatever, as he gets older. Or am I being too coddling in not saying, hey, life is life. It is what it is, which I think is like in some ways the way I grew up, and to a lesser extent maybe intentionally but unintentionally with your mom coming over, how you grew up. So that's what I struggle with a bit is do you I don't know if the word is coddle, but do you support as much as you can your kid and who they are and be there and like you're always there as like a crutch and a shoulder? Or do you need to like move out of the way, let them fall down? I don't know. Is that jumble any thoughts?
It's always a mixture of both, and that's how I approach my fatherhood with Natalia, the older one. She's back in high school for the first time in 5 years. She was homeschooled, and she is loving it. But there is certainly a lot of things happening, right? She has a tough time making friends. She's into boys now. Why is not not interested in me? Things she's not familiar with how to deal with. And I just want to be there. I just want to I want to overparent her and stay in touch and text me. But I'm intentionally, staying back. I'm intentionally reserving myself from the situation because I need her to figure some of these things out on her own. But then when she comes home, I go into her room, we hang out, I let her speak or listen and try to support her as much as possible. But again, I'm trying to do a little bit of both intentionally. Because they have to make mistakes. They have to learn some lessons in life. And I even go back now. I just thought of this session with Aaron Velke over at the Gobundance event in Montana, where he talked about intentionally putting our kids in tough situations. And I'm starting to think I got to come up with some concepts here because, we live well. We have a great lifestyle, and there isn't many heartaches that my kids will have an opportunity to go through. And I think that's extremely important and to develop your character going forward, as it did for me when I was 10 to 13 years old.
Is there anything you're doing right now to create hardship in some way, or
not yet? I don't know. I can't come up with anything. I don't know.
Start throwing things at them when they get home.
Yeah.
Like things that look like ectoplasm. I don't know. You got
put your hands up.
You're a fighter, right? Like, there you go. You can start creating that. That wouldn't be abuse or anything like that.
Not at all.
Totally on homeschooling, can you walk me through the decision on homeschooling? So it sounds like from about 9 to 14 or 8 to 13, she was being homeschooled.
10 to 15.
10 to 15.
Like 99% of things in my life, everything's a product of Gobundance influence, the influence effect. And me showing up at Mike McCarthy's Fambundance event early on, 2017, over at his house, I see all these families, and 60-70% of them talk about homeschooling, and they're homeschooling their kids. And I believe it was the day Aaron Amuchustegi had one of his daughters, I forget which one, maybe I'm wrong, maybe a different family, but I think it was them. One of the families had a graduation for their daughter at the event because she didn't go to school, so they took the opportunity to make it cool and celebrated with her that day. And that concept, triggered something in my mind. I did a little research. We talked to a bunch of families. Well, actually, a lot of research, not a little. A lot of research. Talked to a bunch of families, and then we pulled the trigger about a year after that and homeschooled our kids. Well, Natalia, because Nell was still too little. And then Nell was enrolled in the Montessori Academy. So that sort of, that alternative education environment was good enough for her. And that's how it all came about. Just simply being around families that did it. And and we thought we wanted to give it a try. We love to travel, and we experienced the world for 5 years. And now she wants to go back and get the high school experience. So we're back.
Got it. How did she take it when you took her, when you decided, was it a group decision? How did that go? 10 years old. I mean, that's not young. I mean, it's not, as far as like, she's been 5 years at that point in school. How did she take the decision or contribute to the decision of school, to homeschool?
It actually worked out because she had some issues with a group of friends, or so-called friends. So she wasn't bullied, but she wasn't feeling the vibe. Yeah. There was some drama there around her girlfriends, and she also had a little bit of a health issue with her stomach. Turned out to be nothing, and that all came about at the same time as we were trying to make that decision, and that's why she didn't push back on it a lot. And then once she realized that she doesn't have to go to school, obviously, and have a little bit more of time freedom, she certainly accepted it and gravitated towards that, no problem.
Second kid to Montessori, not homeschooled. Any logic on that? Just the kid, how the kid interacts, or? Yeah,
she's a crazy mofo. I can't handle that at the house. No, she's a little firecracker and very social. Not that Natalia isn't, but she wasn't as social. So that aspect, that lack of the social aspect, didn't bother Natalia as much as I know it would bother Nell if we pulled her out of school. It would be huge.
Interesting.
So it's just a completely different kid, and we kind of recognized it. And again, Montessori is an environment where we could have traveled still. There was no issues with taking her out of school, so that was that worked out fine. And two different characters, two different people, and you kind of got to recognize the strength and the weaknesses.
I love it, man. Look, this has become like a parenting coaching session from you to me, but it's so funny you say that. Like my oldest, who's 7 now, he started in kindergarten, but it was virtual. It was COVID 2 years ago, right? So he was on our like dining room table for 2 classes a day, and he couldn't. It was like, to get him from the living room to the dining room for this class was like, it was like pulling teeth. So we enrolled him in an Acton, like you said, Gobundance influence. I hear about Acton academies, and McCarthy, his kids are in Acton, and all these people that own Actons, Daniel Del Real, all these guys. And I was like, well, what is this? We explored it. There happened to be one in our little town in Michigan. So we enrolled him, and oh my God, perfect fit. perfect fit. Now we move down here and we put him in a Montessori. Montessori is probably a little bit more structured than Acton. It's not traditional. Trust me. I mean, like you said, it's not a traditional school. He'd hate that, or he hated that. But it's still for him like a little bit more restrictive than what he's used to. Now, our second kid is a nut, and he's 4, so he'll be 5 when we move back to the States next year. And we don't know what to do. Maybe public school is best for him. Maybe it's a Montessori. Maybe it's the Acton. We're going to put him in Acton, but we'll see. That's interesting. Family business. Family business is what exactly, and how did the family business start?
Well, I guess it's a family business because I'm the second generation, but back when my mom owned it, it wasn't a family business. It was just a business. It's a roofing and siding company, which we started out to be just a siding company. It was just my mom doing the paperwork, trying to sell business, and my dad doing the work, one van, and that's how it started. When I took over, she decided she wanted to move to Florida. She didn't want to just close the business, kind of sold it to me. I paid her over time. A bunch of money, and then it was still maybe it was two crews. We had 2 crews or 3 maybe, and I did whatever she did, paperwork, admin, all everything from soup to nuts. I even did a little repairs when needed to, so swung a hammer a little bit too. And then over time, this was 2004, 2005, and over time, structurized it, put processes and systems, discovered again through Gobundance.
I was going to ask. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was Gobundance. Well, not really. Well, hold on. Yeah, no. 2013 is my first sort of epiphany around, hey, this isn't a business. I can't even save money. Like, what's going on here? So I bought the book, Investing for Dummies, trying to figure out what is it that I really have. And then I realized it's real estate, it's ownership of businesses and things like that. So it was a little earlier, but then when I walked into the room in a local meetup here in Philly and heard John Antonelli talk about delegation and the team, and then I had, the light bulb went off and I hired my first admin help and so on. And that was the beginning of the real journey of scaling up. This was very early 2017.
What is scaled up?
It took me a while.
What does a scaled up version of your business look like? So meaning like you had 2 crews at one point, you were doing a little bit of work. It was you doing the admin. You mentioned you have an admin, but like, can you give a sense of the scope, like territory, number of crews, number of staff, anything like that? So we have a sense of the size of your business today.
Yeah. So 2013, when I actually had the realization that there needs to be more. And that's when I started educating myself on what that looks like and what I need to do. It was just me, and I want to say 3 crews. So I did everything to run the business, purchasing everything, ARs, APs, all that. And then the crews just did the labor. And then fast forward to now, we have we're going to break $7 million in revenues. We have a team of 7 W-2s on the operation side. We have a salesperson. We have, I want to say about 6 to 8 crews. Wow. And I have a COO that runs the company. And that's what not a scaled up version looks like. That's what, halfway there to the scaled up version looks like. I mean, we're going for $100 million.
Man. Yeah. Let me ask you this as a guy because what I love about you, you are, you're just a humble dude. You just are. That's just the aura you give. I remember saying to somebody like, Kamil's that guy that has the best smile, but also wouldn't want to run into him in a dark alley. Your fighting skills. I wouldn't want to deal with that. But you are. You've come on and spoke to Emerge and Ascend before, and you were just, this is everything. This is where I'm good. This is where I suck, and it was so raw. And you're doing it now. So let me ask you this, because you put in a lot of time, effort, energy and money into scaling up your business, half scaled, whatever it might be at this point, right? But like you've done a lot of work to get to where you are. It's not like, oh, I figured out systems and then systems happened, right? Like you had to learn it and grow. If today was all taken away and you had $100,000 and you're saying, I'm going to build another business, how would you do it? If you could just give, I don't have to give like a, one first step, second step, third, but like, what's so, like, when I say that, what's like the first 2-3 things that jump to mind? Hey, your business is gone. Somebody took it from you. Your mom wanted it back and hey, I have a legal document. I hate you, son. I'm taking it back. How do you take $100,000 and start a new business today, given what you know now?
So I know where to go with this. I also am going to reference Brandon Turner's talk about levels of business advancement, or sort of
roles, right? It was like four
like levels, right?
Yeah.
So you could do it yourself. You could hire somebody to do it for you. You could partner up in this. And this. So I would certainly take some time and figure out, or make a determination whether I should partner with a doer, right? So a CEO right off the bat, or try to set things up myself. And I think the answer would be, I would certainly start building the team first to get me there. Because doing it myself, it took me 15 years to get where I got. Well, actually 20 now, but 15 years to when I started scaling up. And I see the trajectory where we are now by leveraging talent. And it's going to take me less than 5 to get to 100 mil by leveraging talent. So I would leverage talent. I would certainly, I don't know if that 100K would get me there or not, but I would partner up, equity if I needed to, things like that. And I would certainly go that way.
Interesting. I was going to ask you that. Like, how do you recruit and incentivize talent today? I'm sure you have the volume of business and the income to pay, top notch or whatever is the market or better for talent. But if you didn't have that, you said partner up, equity, that sort of thing. Is that I don't know, thoughts on that? Further thoughts on that? Like, how do you just give equity, or is there some sort of vesting schedule? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, if you're starting out a business, I mean, I don't think you have any choice not to. I mean, you can dress it up as phantom equity, certainly vested. You don't want guys leaving after a year or two and you being tied to that person forever. So certainly put those parameters in there, 100%. But yeah, I don't, it's hard for me to imagine anybody would do anything otherwise if you don't have the money to pay them right off the bat. And how do I do that, man? I mean, actually, I think that's one of my kind of superpower skills, is to create a vision that people gravitate to and see their vision within my vision. I think that's one of my kind of strengths. I love to inspire people, motivate, and show them the possibility and potential. And whatever ideas we might have and whatever ventures. So from my perspective, that wouldn't be a problem. I kind of feel very confident around that.
Is the objective for you then, or the role that you play today, to continually expand that vision so that it fits the vision of others? Like, talk about that. How do you do that? Is that an intentional process you have? Do you meet with your team frequently and have these discussions? Like, it makes sense. Like, if you are, this was my problem. I worked for a big company, and that big company had a vision, right? But for me, I had I don't know if it's a bigger or probably a bigger vision for my life than the company had for how they wanted my life to go, if that makes any sense, right? Like what they were willing or able to provide for me, my vision expanded beyond that. So I say this now, like, I think my reflection is, the best people, the ones that can hire still today, the ones that can build and scale their businesses despite all the news and everything that you hear out there, and it's challenging, are the ones who recognize this need. I have to stay ahead with my vision for it to be large enough for these expanding visions that are with me, that are working with me, to fit in there. So what does that process look like? Is it just a stated one vision every year that you put out there? I'm kind of curious how you work on that.
Well, yeah, there's part of that, right? You got to come up with the grand vision, and that's what it is. And now my job is, because I'm no longer involved in the day-to-day of the business, my job is to figure out how everybody else's vision fits into mine, right? So we do that through alignment meetings every quarter. Just, sit down and have a chat about, hey, where you are in life, what your ambitions are, or how can I help you? From the book, The Dream Manager, or even there was another book that just got written, the DLP guy, Don Wiener.
Don Wiener, yeah.
Building an elite organization or something like that. Great book around concepts of meetings and connections with your teams. And that's what I do. And every chance I have, whether it's a quarterly meeting, whether we have, because we have other kind of get-togethers, every chance I have, I stress the fact that we're building a future environment so that you guys, meaning my team, recognizes the potential, your own potential within the growth. If you want to be the head of HR, talk to me. I'll get you there. I'll get you the training. I'll get you the tools that you need to be in that position 2 year or 2 or 3 from now. You know, if you want to own your own little not side hustle, a hustle within our business, you want to have 2 crews that work for you. You can do that within our environment, within our sphere. So you can have your little business without the headaches of owning a big business. So I try to talk and recognize these sort of potentials with anybody on my team, and then motivate them and help them and push them in that direction. And therefore, my vision always needs to expand. So if I have people who want to be in positions that are currently not in existence, for instance, I would say, I don't know, anything, right? We don't have in-house legal. Somebody wants to become an attorney. Hey, why start off your career by working for B&B Siding full-time? That would be an option. I actually just thought of that. And that's my, so it's intentional conversations over and over and over, stating the mission over and over again, and trying to inspire everybody as often as possible. There was one more concept that was in there. I lost it. It'll come back to me. It'll come back for sure. I know right now there's a lot, and we're going to talk about this in a moment, the expansion, the acquisition of businesses, or at least a business that you've undergone lately. And I'd love to get the details on that. But in the current business that you have right now, you mentioned, like, you're not involved day to day in operations, you know, quarterly meetings and making sure that you're understanding the vision. What does a week look like? How many hours a week do you put in? Do you actually have that? Is it that structured, or is it almost no time? Like, what does a week look like for you, or a month look like for you in your current business as the lead of it all? I love structure. I'm a creature of habit, rituals. So I work with the Google Calendar. It's all set up. I was ideally, when I sort of thought about this whole expansion and fire myself out of my own position, and by creating talent around me, I thought, oh man, I'm going to be having all this time. I'm going to do crazy things and enjoy life. I'm busier than ever. It's just busier with different things, right? So now, right now, today, a lot of my week goes around the transition of the new company. But even taking that aside, it's mostly, I still want to, I check in on the morning huddles for my team. We have a virtual morning huddle, and I do that not because I have to, but I like to stay connected. So I always check in on that. And then obviously a couple of Zoom calls here and there, but I certainly structure my week in batches. So Mondays and Fridays, I try to keep light. I block my schedule. That's just sort of thinking time, strategy time, just Kamil with Kamil. And then Wednesdays are all my departmental meetings with my operations L10. We use EOS systems. So we got all our meetings, the marketing, the operations, the sales meetings. So Wednesday's full of meetings. And then Tuesday and Thursdays, again, right now it's all around the acquisition with the new company, but usually then I schedule one-offs with either my COO, a strategy meeting, and any other one-off meetings that I need to do. So in terms of running businesses, Wednesday is the day that I have the actionable items to run the business. And I try to walk away from all those meetings without any homework. I'm actually pretty good at that. But again, I still feel I have to be on those meetings, but I'm probably going to phase out of those in the next 6 months as well. You go into weekly thinking sessions, and you're a big thinker, right? You're visionary. You're always coming up with stuff. How do you then every week bring ideas and thoughts and concepts back to your team and not create chaos? How does that work? So I don't try to come up with new ideas every week. I'm sort of thinking, my thinking time is more around the issues that we're working on right now. Call it rocks, right? So everybody has rocks. So if, for instance, with the new acquisition, my thinking time now is how do we build a roadmap for the position A in that company? How do we build a roadmap for extra sales? So I'm thinking in terms of the current rocks that we have on the docket that we're working on, trying not to invent and add more. No, certainly not. Got My guys would not like that.
That would be me. That is me. I'm always like, then we could do this. Then we could do that. So you're staying kind of focused and in the lane, trying to develop. You're trying to think ahead on current projects. So you're
and of course I'll give myself a little time to dream, but that stays on my notebook. It doesn't go until I'm ready to introduce a new idea, a new concept, new vision, like the shared service component. Yes, then I plant the seed. And I'll say, hey, 6 months from now, we're going to get to work on this. Right now, let's finish what we're doing, but this is the next thing.
Gotcha. We're going to get to that in just a second, your shared service, but let's go to the thing I said a minute ago we're going to get to, which is you're acquiring a business. Talk about that. Why? What is it? How does it plug into what you're doing, if at all, with the roofing company? Give me a little bit of context on the acquisition of a business for you.
Yeah. So rewind 2 years. I was listening to Cody Sanchez on stage at one of the Gobundance events. She's talking about business acquisition as a portfolio, sort of a fund concept approach. Very interesting. I didn't take too much. I didn't think too deep into it. My vision and lane in life up to that point was make money in the business, buy real estate, rent it out, build that portfolio, passive income. But right about that moment, I realized I should probably double down on my business instead of spawning cash away for the real estate. And I made that decision. I started reinvesting in the business, looking for that next hire, then looking for the COO, and so on and so on. And a year and a half ago, a friend comes over and talks to me about opening up a commercial roofing division for within my existing business. And I said, I'm not interested, because to open a new division, we have to go into the market as a new branded company. That means margins are low. That means we're in the race to the bottom when it comes to pricing. And then he says, okay, well, then I know a guy who's looking to sell a commercial roofing business. And it just sort of fell into my lap. So again, from the conversation that Cody had on stage, that planted a seed, opportunity showed up. I certainly took advantage of it without any hesitation, because I knew my sort of mission in life was shifting from real estate more so to business ownership operations. And even in real estate, we're currently, again, working on a project in Florida, but I'm looking at it from the perspective of a business that's going to build the multifamily project, not really just me investing in a multifamily project. So I'm still looking at it from the business perspective, building a team around that, making sure we have systems, processes to deliver that product as a business. And then again, the whole conversation with the seller took us quite a while. It was a long process, but we finally got it done about a month ago.
How did you go about? I mean, look, you've done a lot of things. You've built a business that, like from your mom to you, and bought that from your mom, and you did all of that. You invested in real estate. We'll get to your travel schedule, which is inspiring to say the least. I love where you go. But how did you go about the process of, okay, so this guy has a commercial roofing company. I gotta figure out how to value it, how to negotiate it, how to do how did you go through that process? How did you suddenly go from I'm going to buy one to be incredibly able to?
Yeah, that there again goes back to Gobundance and giving all credit where credit's due. So it happened, I don't know, it was right about the same time, maybe a little before or after, somewhere in there, we created a Saturday call. This was before microtribes were cool. And we created a call, but a couple of us, that talked about business acquisition and ownership, and it was geared around acquisition. And I was on that call not even thinking I was going to buy a business, but we're having these discussions, and I'm learning, and then I'm buying books like Scaling Up and Buy Then Build. So I'm educating myself even before this opportunity came along. And when it did, I felt I have the network that I can lean on. I felt a very comfortable knowledge base and a level where I can intelligently evaluate and business. And also the business was in my lane. It was still in sort of a service, although commercial, but it's service. It's still a roofing component. The P&Ls looks identical to my own business. So from that aspect, it was really easy to make a call and do the evaluation. But again, it was the support of the Gobundance Tribe and our calls, and then later I joined the Small Business Micro Tribe, and it was just learning but one thing I do in life, we talked about Jesse Itzler before our call. I certainly go in first and then try to figure it out later. That's definitely a big component of my being. Like I'm a yes guy. I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, same. We share that for sure. And that's why, again, when I follow you and know what you do, like it inspires me. No bullshit. Like I look at you and I look at what you're doing, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's the path, right? Like just somebody who's not only, we talked about parenting, right? But not only, being authentic in his business life, but prioritizing being a parent, travel, and all of that stuff. Tell me and maybe coach me on this. This is my take. Tell me if you think I'm right or wrong from your perspective. You've mentioned Gobundance a few times, so we'll call it your network. I've said this, like, you know my story, like go from a job to not a job, and I'm building this thing and doing these things and right out there kind of, on my own for the first time, which has been incredible in so many ways, ups and downs of incredible, right? But I've said this, and I hope I never have to be taken to task on it. But if I lost everything, if all of it stopped working, whatever I do, like my online education company fails, and quantum capital is gone, and I don't have the real estate side, all of the things that I'm doing fail, I still and wholeheartedly believe that the best equity I have is in my network equity, meaning like the investment I've made in my case, Gobundance, in your case, Gobundance, and even other courses, masterminds that are aligned with who I am. I've joined somewhere I'm like, that was a mistake. That's shiny object. But for the most part, the ones, and even those, there's some dividends paid for that. But I go back to like, if I'm down to 10 grand, that's all I got, and I got to do something with this 10 grand. I'm buying my way into a network. I'm getting myself surrounded by people. From your perspective, you've got a lot more to lose from a financial perspective right now than I do. Meaning, you've had a hell of a success, and I'm so happy for you. But if you lost it all, which again won't happen, would you agree with that, or would you coach me to say, I think you have to value something else first?
No. And I think that answer should be universal. If somebody says anything otherwise, something's wrong. It's all about the network. It is. Like everything is about the network, right? And even to elaborate on that, it's every single component of my journey in the last 3 years, because that has been the biggest uptick. That hockey stick, well, not yet a hockey stick, but it's beginning maybe stick. Hopefully to look like a hockey stick.
It's incredible.
Every single component of that, every lever I pulled, every decision I made was through a connection. Nothing there I figured out on my own or sort of acted or created on my own. I don't know if that's a bad or a good thing. I take it as a good thing. Hiring a coach for my business was pivotal. I got the coach through the network. I got the coach through Gobundance. Even earlier on, EOS was also through network. Everything, every component I added to my environment was first asking questions, asking about people's experience with that item or component, and then me either acting on it or not pulling a trigger. But it would be so difficult to try to do it on your own. I can't even imagine, man.
Me neither.
It would take a lifetime to get to where I am by trial and error, man. That would be brutal.
I always say that my stated objective when I joined Gobundance, for instance, and this was like going from I'm surrounded by employee minds, high level, but employee minds, to now I'm jumping into an entrepreneurial mastermind. Talk about feeling out of place, but that discomfort led to something. But my stated goal was to quit my job in 10 years, acquire enough real estate over the next decade to walk away. It happened in under 2 from the time that I stated that objective, right? It was like that quick. Because of the network, because of the people I surrounded myself with. And then I even say as well, like once I did, the challenge I had was because of investing not only the money, but the time in being part of that network and being open and giving as much as I whatever I'm able to. Like the opportunities coming at me when I left my job, when people, oh, you're freeing up time. What if we do this? What if we do that? The things I had to say no to. There were so many opportunities. That was my biggest challenge. And that's all a credit to a network. So okay, good. I'm on the Kamil Maras path. I got the answer right.
It's the only path.
I love it. I forget what you called it, but you said in maybe 6 months or so, you're looking at a services. What did you call it?
Shared services company.
Shared services. What is that? What does that mean? What does that look like?
In simple terms, it's just basically creating a company that will service all my entities from the back end component of the operations, whether it's admin, purchasing, AR, legal, accounting, HR, that whole sphere. I want to centralize, get the best people I can, and then be able to service my companies, all the new acquisitions that I'll have that will come in the future. And at some point, once we narrow down, this is Dirk Van Reen.
Van Reen, yeah.
Van Reen helped me with realizing this concept. Is when we master that shared service company, we can then offer it to other similar businesses that are in the service industry that fit that portfolio. And we can do that through offering services, maybe offering education around it, and then create a huge silo of as many companies as possible that is controlled by that shared service company.
Wow. You said you're going to 100 million, right? That's the vision, the objective, the goal, whatever it might be, the big dream. Are you structuring by acquiring this business and eventually starting the shared service business? Are you structured for 100 million at that point? In other words, are you putting your company in a position to be a $100 million company before it is, or do you build it as you go?
It's a little bit of both, again, like anything in life, but certainly the step ahead is being ready to be it. Even this goes back to even the way I carry myself. I do my miracle morning every day, and I have a series of affirmations. I try to live every day like I'm already a no one over $100 million company. When I make business decisions, I'm making them as a guy who owns a $100 million company. Even goes back to hiring my COO, who's the best thing that could ever happen to me. I was ready to hire a different person. I had a session with my coach at the time, made me realize, am I hiring for now or do I want to hire for the future? So I completely reset the whole search criteria I was using in a recruiting company. And then we reevaluated, bumped up the compensation package, bumped up the criteria, and we hired the right person. And a person that has been at 70 million levels and probably above. So I'm always trying to be a step ahead, but I don't want to extend myself financially, because I'm still doing everything with my own money. I'm trying not to take any loans, any lines of credit for growth. I want to try to do it with my own money. So it's certainly, I got to make the money to make the growth happen. So it's a little lagging thing, but I could get there faster if I probably took out some loans and stuff, but I'm not interested at the moment to do that. So yes, a little bit of both.
Makes sense. Is your passion, what is it? I'm thinking about this. So you're in roofing and siding, a services type business. And then you have these things that you do within that. You have the people aspect, the vision setting, the business building, the business acquisition, the central. God, I keep forgetting what it's called. Shared services company that you're going to build so that you could then at some point, once it's mastered, start to build that. I just think about this from a standpoint, like people that have jobs, and this is me included when I had mine. I didn't love the content of the job. The content, like what it was. I didn't love that. And maybe it's me. I couldn't create the context around it to find what I was passionate about, if that makes sense. Like, so I'm wondering, is the content of what you do your passion? Roofing and siding, like I just love seeing a project roll through. Or is there something within the context around that content that is your true passion that you lean into? I think I know the answer, but I wanted to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, it's definitely the context. It's me seeing my team members thrive, having a purpose, even if it's family, right? The job that they do lets them, allows them to enjoy and create more for their family by making more money, that sort of thing. But for me, it's around the context. I always repeat this to my people. It doesn't matter that we're doing roofing and siding. We could have been painting homes. I don't care. That's just a tool. It's everything else, and the customer's journey is included in there too. I get a lot of satisfaction where we know that we took a customer from A to Z, and we get great reviews, and that's very satisfying. It's, to me, I'm building something bigger that I need to have. It's like sort of a sense of duty for me to have my people achieve their dreams, however small or big there might be, within what I'm trying to create. And we need that vehicle. We need a bigger vehicle to get more people where they want to get to.
I love that, man. That's a great, and thanks for sharing that. Cause I think about that a lot, not with regret from leaving the job. I don't regret that at all, but it's like, well, why couldn't I? Cause like you said, I enjoy the people aspect. I enjoy the team building. I enjoy all of that. Like, why couldn't I find that in my gig? Right. I was at a high enough level, but the thing I think for me was, a corporation is structured in such a way that, like, this is the job description. You don't get a say, no matter what level you're at. You don't get a say in how you adjust that. Now, there might be other jobs that serve you better, but it's always like 60%. Like, I'm almost there, right? Whereas now, what you're doing, and this is where you truly inspire me, is you're in the roofing and siding business, but you've got a passion for the team building and the people building and all of that. So you have structured it so that the day-to-day activities that you have within a roofing and siding business and the things you're bolting onto it are fully aligned with where you feel purposeful and passionate and of the most value to those that are on your team. And that's, I think, the difference when you leave a W-2 and go into the entrepreneurial world is, it's risky, it's all of that, but you can lean into your gifts. And I still haven't fully done this, and I need to lean into your gifts in such a way that you can provide the most possible value without I always say, job descriptions. You ever read a job at a company? Like, I need to be able to analyze this, develop people. It's like, some of those skills are just like, I know great analysts. They couldn't develop their way out of a paper bag. They couldn't help a person figure out anything. They don't know how. They don't have that skill. Same time, I know people, and I'm one of these guys that can have a great interaction and dive in and coach and guide and all of that. But sit me down with a spreadsheet, I want to fucking kill myself. Like, it's just it's not me. So that's what I think is the beauty of what you do, is that you put yourself in this position, and just to honor you on this, where you're leaning fully into what you love and what you're great at. And that serves the content, which is the roofing and siding business. So anyway, one more thing, and then I want to go to our wrap up here, but travel, we'd be remiss if we didn't. I mean, I've seen you on this yacht in Turkey, was it?
Yeah.
Hungary or Turkey? Beautiful. You and a bunch of guys. You were just in Vegas, I know, with Perez and Miguel and some of these guys. What is your travel schedule? Like, what's your travel schedule like in a year? How many days a year? Do you have it down? Do you know how many days a year you travel? And do you have a system or like a way that you decide what to do and when to do it? What does that look like?
So we traveled in the last 3 years, 6 months out of the year.
Each year?
Each year. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But I wish it was just 6 months and then you get back, right? You used to. So I was always trying to tailor everything to the best fit. I was testing things out. So initially we did a lot of 4-day weekends, 5-day weekends, incorporated the weekend into it because I was still involved in my business. So I couldn't get away for a longer period of time. And by the way, travel, I value travel, and I assign a lot of my success to my time off. It forced me to implement things into my business faster, more courageously, because I knew I wanted to travel, and I bet on my people. And if I wasn't away from the business for that long, and those amounts of time, I might have stayed more reserved, and my business would have probably scaled up a lot slower. So that was a purposeful, unintended result, certainly.
Yeah.
That was early on, and now we take longer trips, and I probably overdid it this year though. This year I kind of overdid it. I gotta tailor, reel it back in a little bit. But it's my life. I feel so blessed, and I'm one that I always save 40% of all my income reinvested. So that's definitely always in place, but I try to live as much as I can, right? And create those experiences for my kids and the family, and get away with other couples and families and see as much of the world. And I don't want to end up on a deathbed and regretting anything. I try to live all out, man, responsibly.
Sure. Let's go to the final question here, which is the Gobundance card game question, 7 of diamonds. Other than the birth of your children and your marriage, describe a high point moment in your life.
So recently, I'm going to have to say that business acquisition here that just happened. I very rarely allow myself to celebrate a win, and this time I was intentional around just celebrating it, giving myself props. It's something, not only a beautiful thing around that I bought a business and now it's doubled revenues and doubled everything in my professional life, but it gave me proof that I'm able to pull it off, and it gave me confidence that this is my lane going forward, business mergers and acquisitions and growth. It gave me a lot of proof and confidence around where I'm going to be, where I'm heading, and that certain goals are certainly achievable in a way shorter amount of time that I originally thought. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. Well, the biggest ones recently. Yeah.
Love it. Kamil, where do you want folks to learn more about you? Whether it's a social media handle, a website, what do you want to leave folks with?
Just social media is fine. Yeah.
What's your handle? Instagram, Facebook? Where's the best place to find you?
Both. It's Kamil_Maras.
Kamil_Maras. Brother, appreciate you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks as we record this in beautiful Austin, Texas. I'm coming from warm weather I'm going up to Austin. I used to always say down. I'll see you up in Austin from where I am. And I'm
excited. Can't wait to see you.
Brother, appreciate you.